Greetings, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LX777. If you've been paying attention to the sky, you'll know that we are in the middle of the eclipse season. So what does this mean for those of you who practice magic on a regular basis? This means that this is an especially powerful time to change patterns, to change the patterns that govern your reality. And the best way to do that, in my opinion, is to understand how the whole paradigm works, this whole paradigm of consciousness and matter. So what most people will probably tell you is, this is the time to manifest. This is the time to set your intention and create all sorts of things. But in truth, I'd like to offer contrary advice. I don't think this is the best time to manifest. In fact, I think this is actually the best time to do the opposite, to recalibrate, to become aware of what's happening and release. Especially when you consider the magic of the moon. Typically, when it's a full moon, this is when you want to amplify your intentions and your manifestations. When we're dealing with the new moon, this is a time to restart, reset, recalibrate. So we're going to get into that. So peace and greetings to all my favorite people. If you can hear my voice, let me know, is the audio coming through clear? Are the visuals glitching or anything like that? Let me know. It's a late night live stream, so if you're up, you're in for some quality information. We think about this moon card. We think about this tarot card that represents the moon. What we're dealing with is borrowed light. We know that the moon is lit, or at least this is what science tells us. The moon is lit by the sun. It's reflecting what's given from the sun. And we know that the sun represents consciousness. It represents the ego. It represents the forward masculine aspect of being. The moon represents the feminine. The moon receives what the ego has put out, and it categorizes it, it stores it, it places it where it belongs. So since the moon deals with secondary light being reflected, there's a lot of opportunity for error. There's a lot of opportunity for glamour, for being misled. Essentially, if your beliefs about the world are structured in an unstable way, you're most definitely going to misinterpret what the spirit is giving to you. Isn't that always the case? WVT, peace and greetings. Good to have you. DB31, clean and clear, peace. Kevin McKenzie, peace and greetings. So I've got a presentation here. I'm going to divulge some information. Let me see what's going on here with the chat. Namyo Renge Kyo. There is a setting that usually places the chat on the screen. I think I accidentally disabled that. I don't see where it is now. There it is. Okay, so let's get into this. What I have for you here tonight is solar eclipse and the secret blueprint of consciousness, why your reality isn't random, and how to reset the system. So essentially, if you find yourself in a space where you're attempting to change your life, you're attempting to manifest new things, better things, this is actually a time period that is perfect for that. And we'll get into why. So, tonight we're going to talk about this. You're going to know why your life looks the way it does and how to start shifting it from the level of source code. Eclipse season is system reboot season. Okay, so this eclipse season, and we're talking about from the lunar eclipse to the solar eclipse, because if you notice, they always come in pairs. One comes and the other follows every single time. And this happens every year, sometimes multiple times a year. But this serves as an opportunity for consciousness to take a backseat to, or I should say, your conscious mind to take a backseat to the subconscious mind and allow these underlying patterns to become exposed so that they can be manipulated and corrected if need be. What happens during a solar eclipse mirrors what happens inside your own field of consciousness. So we're talking about your body, your habits, and your karma. All these things are actually echoes of a much deeper pattern. So in the sky, what we see is the sun disappears, the sky goes dark, the system pauses. This is a reset period. For some, it's an initiation. So what happens during a solar eclipse? What we're dealing with here is the ego, which is symbolized by the sun. It gets shadowed by the subconscious, which is symbolized by the moon. Identity goes dark. So what I call consciousness, or should I say what the function of consciousness is the organizing principle. The organizing principle. And we're offered an opportunity for this to dissolve and for us to restructure. So this opens a rare window to reset the signal. So we're talking about a window of initiation. The sun represents the conscious mind, which is the organizing will, the projector of identity. It's your conscious mind, which is the active principle. This is the aspect of yourself that identifies with things and attaches with things and says, I am this, I am that. Now, the moon, representing your subconscious mind, it covers the sun. So we're talking about an override here. And you may be feeling this already. You may be already feeling this start to creep up. So you are possibly going through a period of intense dreams, intense visions, or perhaps heightened sensitivity to things like telepathy or things like synchronicities, manifestation. If you've been paying attention, you notice that this kind of comes in waves, up and down, it spikes. It gives us an opportunity to really see just how much we rely on our habits. Autopilot, right? When we talk about autopilot and NPCs, nobody wants to say, oh, I'm an NPC, I'm on autopilot. But the fact is, most of us are on autopilot throughout our lives. That's just how it goes. During the eclipse season, the screen goes black, and this is your moment to wipe the hard drive and reboot the signal. So let's get into it. Consciousness, the invisible blueprint of reality. So what is consciousness? Consciousness is not a thing, right? It's not a thing. It's not something you can point to. It's not something that you can touch, taste, smell, hear, or interpret at all with the five senses. It's a field of potential. It's a field of potential, and it's more than just your conscious mind. When I'm talking about consciousness, I'm not just talking about your mind. I'm talking about the thing that your mind comes out of, the thing that everything comes out of. It's a field of potential. And just like a magnet attracts things, your consciousness attracts matter around it. Consciousness doesn't move the world, it organizes the world. So when we look into the Vedic aspect of things, we have this entity that we call Purusha. Purusha, being consciousness, is the witness, is the observer. That's the masculine aspect. The feminine aspect is prakriti, energy, matter. Now, when consciousness focuses upon matter, matter begins to take form, it begins to take shape, it begins to echo and vibrate according to the patterns that consciousness has set forth. So everything starts in the invisible realm of consciousness first, then it trickles down into the realm of matter. So there's a key right there. If you want to change your life, if you want to manifest anything, you start at the consciousness level. You change your vibration, you change your frequency. And this is more than just buzzwords. You've got to change how you operate. So when I say your vibration and your frequency, I'm talking about your daily habits, your daily thoughts, the repeated emotions that you display and demonstrate. You follow? So why does consciousness attract form? Because consciousness is not passive, right? We know that consciousness is the observer, that consciousness is the witness, but that doesn't mean that it's passive. See, consciousness expresses itself as vibration. It's vibration. And wherever there's vibration, there must be expression. And I'll provide several examples of exactly what that means. Wherever there's potential, there is pattern. Wherever there is pattern, there is magnetism. And wherever there is magnetism, form assembles. Shout out to the good Swami, Swami Niranjan Ananda Saraswati, and his book Samkhya Darshan, which I've recommended several times. I think we even did a book study on that not long ago. But in this book, which talks about advanced aspects of reality, consciousness, which is called Purusha, is the unchanging seer. Prakriti, which is what we know of as the matrix, what we know of as energy, Mother Nature. Prakriti is the dancing field of potentiality. When Purusha beholds Prakriti, the gunas awaken and form emerges. So we're talking about the observer and the dance, the witness and the dream. This is echoing as above, so below. The same way that when you fall asleep and you witness your dream, that's the same thing that's happening with consciousness and matter. Zero the hero. Peace and greetings, my friend. Peace and greetings. You, of course, know this live stream was inspired by you. So let's look at a few examples to really clarify what we're talking about when I say that consciousness is the organizer of reality. And this should make it super clear, right? So consciousness is a lot like the cookie cutter, and matter is like the dough. Wherever there is consciousness, matter will begin to take shape and take form based on how consciousness is vibrating. The same way that a cookie cutter slices into dough and makes the cookie into its shape. Now, here's the thing about matter and energy. Matter is all one thing. Matter is all one thing. You got to really consider your body, right? And all the things that you eat. These things didn't just come out of nowhere. They have always been here. All the atoms and molecules and particles and proteins and vitamins and minerals and water and everything that composes your body has been here. It is eternal. Your body is actually eternal. Everything in this physical world is eternal. Nothing has ever left. And no new matter has ever arrived. It's been a closed system since day one. So that being said, just consider for a moment the intelligence that would come with eternity. Your body is eternal. It operates on its own. It operates on its own. Your blood pumps, your breathing, your blinking, everything that happens within this form, automatic. Same thing with everything in this plane of existence. It's automatically happening. So the same dough, atoms, experiences, archetypes, this can be pressed into any shape depending on the cutter, right? Or we could say depending on the vibration of consciousness. So here's the thing: when you change the shape, the form shifts correspondingly. It all starts at the consciousness level, not at the material level. Another example would be cymatics. And I'm sure by now you've heard of this if you've researched any type of spiritual stuff. You've seen that there's this concept of cymatics where a person might place, let's say, like a thin sheet and put some sand on top of it. If you send vibrations through that sheet, the sand will then align itself with the vibrations that are flowing through. So consciousness is like a tuning fork. It's like an instrument. It vibrates a certain note. That is your frequency. That is your specific frequency, right? So the iron fillings, right, matter. It leaps into the shape to match that frequency. So in other words, you are who you are specifically because you're an expression of your individual slice of consciousness. It's not an accident. It's not an accident. So matter obeys the invisible field. In the same way we talked about cymatics, the vibration going through the thin sheet, the sand doesn't take shape according to the speaker or the instrument or whatever's producing the sound. It takes shape depending on the frequency. So here's the lesson from that: you don't push the world into place, you resonate into alignment. It all starts at the consciousness level. Again, shout out to the good Swami Satyananda Saraswati. In her book, Tat Washuddhi, there's a quote where she says, "Where attention flows, prana goes." This has been talked about forever and always will be, because this is the science and the only thing that matters, to be quite clear. We can talk about the metaphor of the prism and the white light, and this is one of my favorites, because you can see that white light as the soul. Well, you can see that white light as consciousness, to be more specific. Undifferentiated consciousness. That's how they describe Shiva. That's how they describe the all in the Kabbalion. That's how some might even describe God. The soul, right, what we refer, and by the way, this white light, we could also refer to that as spirit, especially if you're going from the Kabbalistic point of view. Now, what we call the soul, right, that is what would be the prism. So this prism splits the spirit into different colors. So each one of those colors, that represents matter, with each ray forming into a different story, a different body, a different incarnation. So the white light on the left, you could see that as spirit. The prism, you could see that as your soul. And each one of those rays of color, you could see as a specific incarnation. So you might be the green ray, the blue ray, the purple ray, the red ray. Each one of those is an individual life. Now, the thing is, the red color will experience a red life. The blue color will experience a blue life. The green will experience a green life. Each one of these will be experiencing their own specific experience. But the goal and the purpose and the intention of magic is realignment and ascension, to go beyond just being a separated color and to reach back up to that soul prism level and understand the bigger picture. In Kabbalah, we talk about a point called Doth, and this is what happens at that point called Doth. It is a point where you can stand outside of the prism and observe each one of these colors. Like I said, the red has its own story, the green has its own story, the blue has its own story. But when you're at the soul level, when you identify with the soul level, this is an experience of reabsorbing these colors. So now you, instead of just being a red experience and only understanding what happens with the red life, you can now be at this level of understanding how the red tied in with the blue and with the green, and why everything had to be the way that it was supposed to be. At the soul level, looking down, you can see the bigger picture. So life and the lessons that come along with it, the understandings that come along with it, it's bigger than just you. It's bigger than just your individual experience. When you expand, you see how everything fit together, this person and that person. And this is already happening always. The difference is your level of perception and what you're focused on. All of us are so focused on our specific individual physical life, we don't take the time to see the bigger picture. Reality is perfect. Everything is already perfect. But from a fragmented perspective, you can't see that. From a fragmented perspective, you see enemies. From a fragmented perspective, you see a conspiracy. You see that people are trying to hurt you. You see that this, that, and the third is corrupted. But the truth is, it's not corrupted. Everything is exactly how it's supposed to be. Always has been. But you can't see that from the level of being fractionated. You follow where I'm going with this so far? Cynthia, peace, my friend from Instagram. So look, the moment awareness differentiates, it creates a world. The very moment that awareness differentiates, that's what creates an individual experience. So the whole goal and purpose and point of magic is to ascend past that differentiation and come back into the unity. The pattern is the act of seeing. So if you know anything about Kabbalah and this tree of life, you'll know that the unity is at the very top, dealing with Kether. Kether is the point where consciousness is undifferentiated, where consciousness is perfect, where consciousness vibrates at its own. Matter of fact, it's not even vibrating. It just is. At the level of Kether, it just is. Now what happens is 1 degree down from Kether, we get to Hakma, which is known as the divine masculine. And what has happened here is that unity has taken its eyes off of itself and become aware of something else. So now 1 has become 2, observer and the observed. And once that process starts, it ripples all the way down until you have your own specific life where you have to wake up, go to work, take care of the kids, pay bills, deal with drama and gossip, get old and die, and repeat the process until you start retracing your steps back up the tree. Another metaphor we could look at is software code and operating system, right? If anybody here has ever dealt with programming or anything like that, we could say that consciousness is the program. We can say that matter is the screen output. So just like you're using YouTube, right? You don't see the code behind YouTube, but the code is still there running the show. You're just interacting with the end result, the end product. In that same way, everything that's happening in your life is the end product. It's the end app. But there's code that's running behind it. There are patterns running behind it. And this is what's causing things to be the way that they are. So when you're able to change a line of code, you produce an entirely new reality on that screen. Joe says, I know I understand the symbology of the rainbow in the sense of every incarnation of the soul, and the soul, the blender of light, the spirit. I have a question. Ain is beyond that light. Absolutely. Absolutely. So Ein Sof and Ein Sof are, this is, you could even see it as infinite fertile soil. Infinite fertile soil. And when you look at it, you just see dirt. But what's really happening in that soil is that there are all sorts of countless organisms. The minute that a seed is planted in that soil and it's given some water and some sunlight, magically life springs out of that soil. So Ain is like the soil for the spirit. Good question. So here's a book that I never share. So a quote from this book is, all behavior is organized by higher matrices of frame and meaning. This is why I always say maintain your frame. I always say maintain your frame because it is the frame that sets your behavior. It allows you to do things. You can't operate outside of your frame. Your frame and your meaning determine what you're capable of, what part of your potentiality that you are allowed to express. It all has to do with your frame and the meaning that you give to life. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. So what that means is your frame and the meaning that you give to life is going to produce results. You change the frame, you change your meanings, you change the results. It's literally that simple. Literally that simple. Another metaphor we can talk about with this consciousness is the seed and the field. Going back to that Samkhya text, right? The effect is bundled in the cause. Never forget that. Never forget that. This is a closed, perfect system. Everything is everything. The effect is bundled in the cause. So whatever effect you see, understand that it was inherent within the cause already. Inherent within the cause already. And that's a big part of what inspired this conversation. You know, I was just thinking to myself in my meditation how I've always had everything that I needed, and you always have everything that you need. Now, whether or not you see that is a different story. But our consciousness, or the consciousness that creates your mind and creates your experience, it is a cloud of potentiality, meaning everything that you could potentially possibly do, everything. The patterns all exist. They all exist within your grasp. And I mentioned before that the body is eternal. All the parts that compose your body have always been here. Always been here. So when consciousness vibrates its way down into manifestation, it has assembled and attracted and magnetized parts of matter, pieces of matter from far and wide. There's no accident. The makeup of your body and the makeup of your karma and the things that you have. It's no accident. You literally have everything that you need in your grasp. The question is whether or not you're going to activate it. Are you going to activate it? How do you activate it? By aligning yourself with that specific potentiality. Does that make sense, or does that sound loaded? Consciousness is pattern. It is pattern, it is pattern, it is pattern. And what it does is it attracts matter to it. That matter that's attracted to the pattern contains within it, just like the seed contains the tree. The matter that is wrapped around your consciousness contains the answer to everything that you've ever asked and ever will ask. Within you right now is the answer for every question that you'll ever have. Smooth, peace. Smooth says, my nigga, I ain't been here in months and I'm totally in tune. I actually get it, LOL. Fuck yeah. Marwa Fakir, peace and greetings. Great to have you here. Welcome. So look, consciousness is the seed of potential. Matter is the field and the conditions and the nutrients. Matter is the field, the conditions, and the nutrients. Consciousness is the seed. So here's the lesson with that. You don't force growth. You hold the seed consciousness and reality self organizes. It's all in your consciousness. It's what you focus on. It's what you repeatedly engage in emotionally, mentally, and physically. Does that make sense? Gizmo, peace, peace. Gizmo says, Travis is awesome. Same wave. So much confirmation in this video. Synchronous seeds are blowing up like crazy. Absolutely. Absolutely. And this is the time for that. I'm telling you, this particular solar eclipse is all about alignment. Alignment. Not trying to produce anything, but getting yourself into the correct alignment, moving yourself into the correct alignment. So if you're doing that, you should be seeing synchronicities pop up everywhere. If you're moving yourself into the correct alignment, you should be seeing synchronicities pop up everywhere. You dig? No face divination. Peace and greetings, my friend. Peace and greetings. Zero says, makes total sense to me. Awesome. 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 So I'm really trying to drive this point home about consciousness and how consciousness sets matter into motion. In this wonderful text, Initiation into Hermetics, right? You should have this on in your library. The magician brings forth the form from the akasha using will and imagination. This is what they're talking about in this book, in Taught with Shruti, Samkhya Darshan, even the Matrix model. It's all talking about the same thing. You change your life by changing your frequency. What is your frequency? This is what you frequently think, what you frequently feel, and what you frequently do. When you start on the invisible and tangible level, the physical plane has no choice but to correspond, but to calibrate. We're also talking about elemental magic here, because matter is the elements. The fifth element, the Akash, like Franz Barton's talking about here, the Akash is the fifth element. This is your spiritual authority. This is operating from the higher plane. Operating from the level of soul gives you authority over the level of matter. Operating from the level of soul, from that prism that I showed earlier, when you operate from the level of that prism, you can start to select what color's coming out of that prism. Smooth says, question, if a person's desire is to be a couch potato and just play video games and eat and sleep and fuck, why does their life on this earth have to be difficult? Well, it doesn't have to be difficult. It doesn't have to be difficult. But the thing is, does the environment correlate with that? Does the environment correlate with that particular expression? There are some people who do live that lifestyle and they will not say that it's difficult, right? But if your environment, if it's not in your karma to do that, it will be very difficult. Like I said before, each of us, we are, what we actually are is a cloud of potentiality. You're not your body. You're a cloud of potentiality. And within that cloud of potentiality are all the possible choices and decisions that you could make. And when you focus on one of those choices, matter begins to conform with those choices. Now, the thing is, when I say the matter conforms, I'm talking about your body, your environment, the people around you. Everything will start to correspond to that. So if your particular desire does not fit with the rest of the ecosystem, you're going to face a lot more resistance. So a big part of this, a big part of taking control of your destiny is understanding your specific vibration, understanding who you are, who you actually are. Not what your body is, not what your memories have told you, not what society tells you, not what your culture tells you, not what the boys tell you, not what the hoes tell you. You got to understand what you actually are. And once you understand the parameters of what you are, it becomes a whole lot easier to select a useful and appropriate expression. Zero says, thank you for this, Trev. You really are giving your imprint into magic, and I'm glad to be here to learn. I'm glad that you're here. Thank you. The magician brings forth the form from the akasha, the fifth element. How? Using will and imagination. I'm telling you, this stuff is easy. Easy. But if you make it difficult, it will be difficult. You choose. It is a choice for you to choose. Cynthia says self before the bros and hoes. Exactly. Exactly. Or as Robert would say, absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, so another metaphor, right? Another metaphor, magnet and iron. We've all seen this. If you didn't do it in school, then you've seen it on the internet somewhere. Consciousness we can see as the magnetic field. The magnetic field. Matter you could see as the bits of iron pulled into orbit. See, I really want you to understand this, because when you grasp this, you'll see that you are not actually matter. You are the consciousness that is forming matter. It's a big difference. It's a big difference. You are actually the magnetic field. You are the potentiality. Matter is what's being pulled into its orbit. So even if consciousness is just vibing, if it's just chilling, just doing nothing, or as Smooth said, just sitting on a couch and playing video games and eating, it's always polarizing reality. It's never off. This is the way that life works. So the lesson here is your state of being acts like a gravitational pull. Even non-doing creates ripples. It's a closed ecosystem. Nothing new is introduced, and nothing is destroyed either. Einstein told you that. Energy isn't created or destroyed. So whatever you, if there's a closed ecosystem, what you select is going to be your portion, and what's left over is going to be the environment. We can look at that prism. If you're living a red experience, then your environment will now become green, blue, yellow, and all the rest of the colors. There's a shifting and a sorting going on here. Automatically, systematically.
Willie, you kind of spit when you talk, man.
That's the Holy Spirit. I don't spit it.
So that's the Holy Spirit spitting on you?
Automatically, systematic.
That Holy Spirit's spitting a lot.
Holy Spirit. Ray 636. Peace, peace. Peace, peace, my friend. So look, one more metaphor here. Movie script and actors, right? Consciousness is the organizer of reality, right? So we can see consciousness as the writer, right? Not the director. The director is the mind. The body you can see as the actors. The world you can see as the stage, right? The moment a script exists, the mind casts the characters. The moment the script exists, and that is consciousness coming out of Kether, right? The moment that happens, everything else falls in line. And the body performs the role. So you might not have been aware of the process when it started, but you can become aware of the process now and begin to do what's necessary. WT says, yesterday I had business to attend to, so I walked to handle it. Even went the wrong way a couple of blocks. Found $20. Later on during that business, I was told we're $20 short because of an unexpected charge. From the moment I found the 20, I knew it was for something. Crazy how fast it was, though, same day. Yes. It's all a closed ecosystem. And that's exactly what I mean when I say you have everything that you need. Everything that you will ever need is within your potentiality. It's within your environment somewhere. and it will make its way to you if you're looking for it. The frame matters. The frame matters. That's why I said earlier back here, all behavior is organized by higher matrices of frame and meaning. This is why it's important to have a positive mindset. This is why it's important to have an optimistic mindset. This is why it's important to have a can-do attitude, because if that's the frame that you're setting, reality has to conform to that. Reality has to conform to that. Awesome. Awesome. So, once again, from Samkhya Darshan, right? The effect is bundled in the cause. That's one of the most important teachings from this book. And I want you to understand, you have the answers that you're looking for. You just have to select them. You select them by adjusting your mind. So let's talk about this eternal body of yours. The eternal body, matter never dies. This is a wild concept, right? Especially when you really sit down and think about it. When you really sit down and think about this, like, pay attention here. Matter never dies. Your body is ancient. It is ancient. If you really want to look at this, you are a god. You are a deity. You are an eternal being. Now, see, what I always teach in my classes is that when you really elevate to the top levels, you'll understand that there's two sides of one coin. There's only one, but there's two sides of that one coin. And we say divine masculine, divine feminine. The two sides of that coin are actually consciousness and energy. Consciousness and energy. Now, energy can take any type of form. Energy is matter. Energy is expression. It is the expression of consciousness. Those are the only two things that exist. Those are the two gods, the god and the goddess. That is the god and the goddess, consciousness and energy, Shiva and Shakti, Purusha, Prakriti, Osiris, Isis, whatever mythological name you want to give to the ultimate god and goddess. That's what they are, consciousness and energy. Those are the two eternal divine beings, which are actually one entity. But because we're at this vibration that is separated, or because we're under the illusion of separation from unity, we see them as two. I don't care what deity you worship, there's only two. Technically one. Benjamin 37, peace and greetings, my friend. So your body is ancient. It is built from recycled atoms. And what the way that I always see this is that matter is one entity. Matter is one entity. So this body that I operate through, and the body that you operate through, and your environment and your car and your phone and everything is actually one entity. It's all one entity. And if you could wrap your mind around that, things will start making a different kind of sense. Things will start making a different kind of sense. And it takes a stretch of the imagination to really see that. But you are made of Earth's memory. Everything that you eat, breathe, and become has always been here. It's just changing shape. It is fluid. See, we see these things as solid because of our rate of consciousness, right? We're vibrating so slow, so we see things as solid. But in truth, everything is rising and falling. All forms are coming and going, changing, morphing. But they never leave. They never leave. When your body decays and breaks down, it spreads out across the soil, transported by different worms and bacteria. And over time, it will become something else. In fact, it immediately becomes something else. It becomes fertilizer. And eventually that fertilizer will become other plants. Eventually those plants and those fruits will become food, which will become part of another creature. And that creature will become another part of another creature. And the cycle literally repeats. But listen, that is matter. That is not consciousness. And see, this is what eternal life is. This is what eternal life is. I know that when Christ came and promised eternal life, you thought that you'd be in, a place with golden roads and pearly gates. But in truth, eternal life has always been. No matter what. No matter what. You're made of recycled atoms, recycled proteins, breath, and water. There's your 4 elements, by the way. And these things have existed forever. So just think about that for a moment. Consider the ageless wisdom that comes with eternity. And we're talking about eternity here. Matter is eternal. It has always been here, and it always will be here. Matter is eternal. Your body is eternal. And that eternal matter comes with its own form of intelligence. That's why it's able to operate on its own. This is the real reason why synchronicities happen. This is the real reason why manifestation happens. Everything, consciousness is probability and potentiality. Matter and energy is the expression of that potentiality. And it all fits together like puzzle pieces. Nothing is exempt from that. No matter how it may seem, no matter how the emotions might trigger you, it's all part of this eternal ecosystem. Adonis, peace, my friend, peace. Glad you can make it. Yeah, I don't know what it is about the notification. It's been doing that to me too. I'll get a notification 30 minutes after the fact that somebody's gone live. But hey, we're in here. For the culture, peace, peace, my friend, peace. Benjamin 37 says, scientifically, when the universe explodes, the Big Bang will happen again. I mean, if that theory is correct. But then again, it probably is. I like what Bobby Hemmett said, right? If it ain't in the ancient texts, then there's a likelihood that it ain't true. But even the Vedic texts talk about these great epochs of time where there is an awakening and a sleeping, an indrawing of the breath and an exhale. But either way, the cycle repeats over and over and over. Smooth says, I appreciate this insight. You're not taking this down, are you? No, I don't think so. We'll keep it up. We'll keep it up. Peace, peace. Zzz, zzz. So yeah, just consider the ageless wisdom that comes with eternity. And I want you to really think about that. You're not lost, right? It might feel that way sometimes, but that's not a truth. That is a fear, and that is a lie. All of the answers have always been with you in some aspect of you. You've just got to adjust your frame, and you've got to adjust the meanings that you give to matter. Because once again, nothing is true. Everything is permitted. If you stick with the facts, you'll see there is only consciousness and matter. Everything else is an illusion. Everything else is an illusion. And that's not to say that illusions are bad or good. Illusions are just how the mind makes sense of this interplay. Because in fact, the mind doesn't really exist. The individual does not exist. All that exists is consciousness and matter. Whoops. All that exists is consciousness and matter. Luis Garcia says the meaning I give to matter. Exactly. Right. And if you really look at life, you know what I'm saying? A lot of the trouble and the problems that we have is because we've adopted the meanings that somebody else gave us. We didn't really utilize the meanings that we've deduced from our own understanding. Most of our minds are filled with meanings that other people have formulated for us. And we don't know what agendas may come with those meanings. We don't know what type of ignorance came into play with other people's meanings. Nothing is true. Nothing is true. And I tell you what, there's a certain kind of freedom that comes with slowly separating yourself from those preloaded meanings. What culture has given to you, your friend groups, your family groups, your religion. There's a lot of meanings that have been forced upon you before you were able to think on your own. There's a freedom that comes with letting those things go and figuring out who you actually are outside of other people's paradigms. There's a freedom that comes with that. There's also a cost, right? There's a cost. You might lose some people who are still stuck in other people's meanings, but there's a freedom, a liberation that comes when you release meanings that don't serve you. Let's get back to the teaching. Nam Yoho Renge Kyo. It's a very popular mantra. I could send you the link on Instagram once I finish this live stream, but it's a very popular mantra. My new favorite right now. So let's continue. Let's talk about karma for a little bit. Karma, karma, karma. Karma lives in the form, not the soul. That's another big thing that I want you to understand here. This concept of karma, it has nothing to do with the soul as much as it does with matter. See, karma is the expression of matter. Karma is the expression of matter. And the relationship that it has with the soul is that, oh my gosh, how do we put this? The soul, I mentioned, is like that prism that separates the spirit into multiple rays of color. The soul is like that clear prism that takes the light of spirit and separates it and fragments it into individual incarnations. Let's go back to that image just real quick. So the soul is that prism. The incarnations are the colors. But ultimately, when you ascend past individual incarnation and even past the soul, you'll get spirit. Now, spirit is closer to unity, closer to undifferentiated pure consciousness. So it doesn't lack anything. It doesn't need anything. It doesn't have that illusion of separation. It doesn't. But I mentioned before that when you look at the tree of life, at the very top, you have Kether, that bright white light, and it is everything unified as one. Now, once attention moves from that state of existence, it now becomes observer and observed. So that splits the one into two. And what happens now is that consciousness is observing itself from a different level. It's observing the differences. It's observing the separation. Now, I mentioned earlier about the gunas. Let's go back to that quote. The quote here is, Purusha is the unchanging seer. Prakriti is the dancing field of potentiality. When Purusha, which is consciousness, beholds Prakriti, which is energy, we could even say when Chokmah beholds Bina, the gunas awaken and form emerges. So what's really happening here is consciousness, when it places its attention on something, that something now scrambles to achieve harmony. It scrambles to achieve harmony. And that's what's happening. That's what we call life. That's what we call karma. When the lens of consciousness is focused upon matter, matter begins to dance and move and realign itself. And it will continue to do that until it becomes harmonized. Why? Because matter reflects consciousness. Consciousness is closer to unity and purity. So matter is going to attempt to reflect purity. Matter is going to attempt to reflect unity. That's what karma is. That's what the gunas are doing. They're attempting to balance themselves. They're attempting to harmonize themselves. So that's the relationship between the soul and karma. The soul is observing these rays of light. And these rays of light are going through life, going through experiences. They're scrambling, they're turning, and they're changing. They're attempting to reflect unity. Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Zero says the gunas are like the three modalities of energy to create the patterns. So yeah, the patterns exist within consciousness, within Purusha. And what we see is that the gunas are attempting to reflect those patterns. And that reflection process is the gunas attempting to achieve a state of balance. Now, the thing is, the trick is, that can't happen in the manifest dimension. That's not going to happen in the dense physical plane. Because by its very nature, it is imbalance. So that's the paradox. Life and karma is a process of imbalance attempting to become balanced. That's what's happening here. The Chronicles of Sat Ra, peace, peace. He says Miss Tina Turner made that known in her documentary mantra. Yes. This is the mantra that Tina Turner brought to the public eye in the West. So let's go back to it. Karma lives in the form, not the soul, right? So we made that clear. So when we talk about karma, we're talking about matter and energy, not the soul, not the soul. The soul, you could say, in a way, is attempting to harmonize the incarnations, attempting to harmonize matter. So karma lives in the form, not the soul. Karma belongs to matter. This is important. This is important. Because if you're able to achieve non-attachment, if you're able to release attachment to matter, you're subsequently releasing attachment to karma. And that's a beautiful thing. As long as you're attached to karma, you will continue to twerk and percolate with karma. As long as you're attached to karma, you'll continue to twerk and percolate with karma. A third time for Dr. Umar Johnson. As long as you're attached to karma, you will continue to twerk and percolate with that karma. It's like this. If you buy a used car and it breaks down, that's not your karma. It's the car's karma, right? The history of the car, all the things that came with the car up to this point to cause it to break down. You see what I'm saying? So the car had issues before you got it. And those issues were made manifest. The potentiality for that car to break down existed inherently within that vehicle. Now, the problem is you think it's your karma. When the car breaks down, oh, I've got bad luck. Oh, I've got bad karma. Oh, this happened to me because I didn't donate $5 to the Red Cross. And look at the meaning that you've placed on it. You see what I'm saying? The state, your state, and the meaning that you give to matter. What do they say in the Matrix model? All behavior is organized by higher matrices of frame and meaning. So your car breaks down and you say, oh, that's my bad karma. No, nobody told you to do that. In the very same way that people are scrolling the internet and they're seeing some spicy drama and they feel this need to just inject themselves into it. Now they got to talk about it, get involved in the comments, getting into these arguments with people, going back and forth, back and forth. Look at how you choose to inject yourself, to involve yourself, to wrap yourself up in something that really doesn't even concern you. Every single piece of drama that comes across your phone, whether it's racial stuff, whether it's political stuff, whether it's anything, you go out of your way to choose to attach yourself to it and identify with it, and thereby take that karma within yourself. So what that means is now it's wrapped up and lodged in your thought process. It's lodged in your frame. It's lodged in your meanings. And you go out and you perpetuate it and you place it on the rest of your environment. You're doing this to yourself. You don't have to. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. And see, to be quite honest, the reason that we do that is because we're attempting to express a state of disharmony within ourselves. And we're attempting to harmonize it by having these arguments, by having these back and forths. Right? When we get engaged in the comments and we want to argue about somebody who got killed or some political choice or this, that, and the third, what we're really doing is we're attempting to heal our shattered ego. We're attempting to heal in harmony, disharmony within ourselves. Now, that's not going to happen in no comment section. Hence why you keep doing it. It doesn't work. But that's the pathology of the ego, of the unhealed ego. Get away from that stuff. It's not useful or appropriate to self-realization. But it does further entrench you into identification with matter. And if you're not done with the circus of reality, then continue getting wrapped up in stuff that don't concern you. So if you buy a used car and it breaks down, it's not your karma, it's the car's karma. Likewise, your body may hold emotional patterns, ancestral trauma, or compulsions that didn't start with you. Right? All of us were born into families, and all these families have their own trauma, their own unhealed situations that unfortunately were passed down to you. Most of them are mental, most of them are emotional, some of them are even physical. And here's the lesson. Consciousness is the one thing that doesn't carry karma. So we're talking about identity here. Are you identifying with this matter, or are you identifying with the higher aspect? Consciousness is the one thing that doesn't carry karma unless it identifies with the body. Smooth says, but the moment the car just had to break down on my ass, would my karma be? Would be my karma, wouldn't it? If the car finally had to break down, fine. But why did it have to break down on me, though? So look, right there, like you're going through this process of assigning meaning to it. You're assigning that meaning to it. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. Everything. So let's step away from the car metaphor. Step away from the car metaphor. Let's say, just anything happens. Anything happens. It doesn't mean anything. It's just raw physical data. Raw physical data. And then you, with your mind, you assign meaning to it. You didn't have to do that. You chose to do that. You chose to do that. Even if it's a compulsion, even if it's a habit pattern, it's still a choice. You give it that meaning. Nothing means anything. Everything in this world is pure physical raw data. And then we attach meaning to it. Nothing means anything. Hence why it's so easy to change the meaning of everything. The eye can only see what the mind is ready to comprehend. The eye can only see what the mind is ready to comprehend. The eye can only see what the mind is ready to comprehend. So whatever level your comprehension is at, that's the meaning that you're going to place on reality. I challenge you to expand your comprehension of reality so that hopefully you release the tendency to assign meaning to everything. Smooth says, so you're saying we just attach meanings to shit happens. Do we not? Test it and see. Test it and see if what I'm saying is true. Test everything that I'm saying here to see if it's true. Test all of it. Don't nothing mean anything. We give permission. We give permission. Nothing is true. Everything is permitted. Karma is pattern, memory, embedded into matter. Matter is nothing but cause and effect. The car wasn't taken care of, right? Whether it was your fault or somebody else's fault, the end result is the car wasn't taken care of. So eventually it will express its state of disrepair. It's not because you didn't donate or you didn't give that bum $3 or because you didn't tithe at church or because Jupiter and Saturn or Mercury's in retrograde. Now, keep in mind what I was saying about the body too, right? Look at this now. Karma is pattern memory embedded into matter. And look at this. Consider the ageless wisdom that comes with eternity, because the body is eternal. So karma belongs to the body. You got to think, man, if your body was not created when you were created, that means the parts and the pieces already had a story. Nature is mind-boggling. You know, a female, a girl, a woman, when she's born, already has all the eggs inside of her that she'll ever have. Which means that when she was a baby in her mother's womb, she already had the eggs in her. So when she has a baby, she already has the eggs that will be females that will have more eggs. So this unbroken line of women have had and contain the future of all humanity since the beginning and all the way to the end. Which means that everything that the mother experiences and eats and, you know, the emotional patterns, the mental patterns, like all this stuff, it has an effect on the matter that constructs the body. And the body comes with its own story, its own cause and effect. This stuff is really mind-boggling if you really sit down and think about it. Matter has its own play. Consciousness is simply observing it. Now, the opportunity that we have with a spiritual path is that we can guide that. We can guide it. We can guide that unfolding, or we can just let it happen. Adonis says, this reminds me of 2018 when you were teaching about mimetic magic, the root social matrix. You can give meaning to anything. It can empower you or weaken you. Absolutely. Absolutely. And honestly, that's the true meaning of this card right here, the Magician. That's the true essence of this card. You're the one that gives things meaning. You're the one that sets the frame. You're the one that gives things power to hurt you or to help you. And I'm telling you, there are no enemies. And I'm telling you, you don't have to suffer. Nam yo ho renge kyo. All right, so we're almost done here. Solar eclipse, right? Solar eclipse. So check this out. The eclipse serves as an opportunity to reset your blueprint, right? During the eclipse, your conscious identity goes offline. And I'm telling you, you should already be feeling this. You should already be feeling this subtle shift that's happening in your experience right now. This is your moment to stop unconsciously recreating the same patterns over and over and over again. So what you're feeling during the eclipse, this is what your deeper signal is calling forth. It's calling up out of you. And here's the thing, if you don't like it, this is the time to shift the frequency. This is the time to shift from red to blue, to green, to purple, to yellow, whatever. This is your eclipse opportunity. This is the moment to stop broadcasting the old signal, the old vibration, the old pattern. So here's what you do. Look, step one. This is what I want you to do. Or don't, right? Or don't. Step one, consider the statement. I no longer broadcast blank. What is it that you're no longer going to broadcast? Analyze yourself. Pay attention to yourself. What's happening within your being, within your life? What aspect of this expression that matter is taking do you choose to no longer broadcast? And step two, I want you to consider this question. What would I become without this pattern? What would I become without expressing that pattern? You've got to really stop and take the time to think about this. And this is the perfect time to do it with this solar eclipse, with the moon eclipsing the sun, when the subconscious mind is overlapping the conscious mind. This is the perfect time to do it. The window is open. What would I become without this particular pattern? Your gears are already starting to turn as you automatically draw your attention to certain patterns that you no longer want to replicate. Your mind is already figuring out the answer to these questions. You don't even have to do it. It's happening automatically. And see, if some of you aren't paying attention, it's being thrown in your face constantly. It's being thrown in your face constantly. This is your assignment for the solar eclipse. Not to cross your fingers and try to manifest, not to put a bowl of water outside and catch the moon rays or whatever, not to even go outside with your special sunglasses and look at it. No, sit down and consider. Understand, consciousness always attracts form. Consciousness always attracts form. So which version of you is broadcasting? You are the magnet. You are the organizing principle. You. And I want you to think about, what is you? What is you? Because after going through this presentation, you should see clearly that you is not the physical body. You is not the memories. You is not the thoughts. You is something much more subtle, much more fine. What you are is a potentiality, a potentiality. That potentiality magnetizes matter. You bring forth matter to conform in a specific kind of way. Joy Empress, peace and greetings. Welcome. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. This mantra is easy to find. In fact, I suggest you do find it. Easy. Easy to meditate on. Who are you? Which one of y'all kicked me? Which one of y'all kicked me? So, you are the blueprint and the architect. I done told you this 100 times. Whether you want to accept it or not, that's your business. That's your business. The world is not happening to you. It is organizing around you. You dig? You dig? So that is the presentation. That is what I wanted to share with you about this solar eclipse. Your subconscious mind is revealing certain patterns within your life that you may want to adjust. The power is within your grasp. Everything that you need has always been within your cloud of potentiality. Always. Always. Just like what WBT said earlier, you know what I'm saying? He found that $20 bill, and not long after, he needed exactly $20. Like that type of thing isn't an accident, and it isn't just a cute little synchronicity. All of life works that way if you just train yourself to see it. It's happening whether you train yourself to see it or not. What's important is how you adjust your state and how you manage the meanings that you place on the events that happen in your life. It's so easy to be influenced by all these other idiots out here. All these other idiots out here. Dumbasses. Stupid, blind, deaf, and dumb. It's easy to be influenced by these people. But you've got to take the time to step away from the human insanity and really pay attention to what's happening in your life. Let go of the meanings that these people have given you and start to come up with your own meanings. And I don't mean just come up with something crazy and be delusional. I mean, pay attention to nature. Look at how these things play out. Observe. In fact, don't be so quick to place a meaning on anything. Just observe. Just observe. And you will see that the body is doing its own thing, that the material plane is doing its own thing. What you actually are is above and beyond the material plane. The sooner that you realize it, that the sooner that you will be able to graduate into more power over your existence. Nobody wants to be a slave. That's not fun. But you're a slave until you are capable of being free. Let me say that again twice. You're a slave until you're capable of being free. You're a slave until you're capable of being free. All right. That's my TED Talk. Any questions? Smooth says, damn, we really lost our way then. Having a better insight on who I may be, the blueprint, it seems kind of embarrassing that we stuck in this rat race type paradigm. That is a meaning. That is a meaning, and that is a belief. But earlier, Zero sent me this meme about it was a knight in shining armor or something, and like he died, and he was like ready to escape the wheel of samsara. But then there were like, he realized that there were still sentient beings back on Earth, and so like he decided to go back and help them. And then I looked in the comments, and somebody said something very insightful. He mentioned how there's a certain reach that you realize that heaven and earth are the same thing. They're the same thing. When you're able to see it from a top-down angle, there isn't a separation. And that set off a light bulb in my head because I understood something new. One thing that always kind of puzzled me was how when we talk about some of the deeper esoteric topics, there's this concept of ascended masters. And there are some ascended masters, some bodhisattvas, and beings who choose to come back and help humanity. And my thought has always been like, fuck that. I'm not coming back. When I leave, I'm gone. That's always been my thought process. But then I thought about it after reading that guy's comment, and it made sense. It made perfect sense. They don't choose to come back to help humanity. No. They reach a certain realization that humanity and the world is not separate from heaven. It is all one thing. There's only consciousness and matter. And there's different layers of matter. There's dense matter and there's subtle matter. because even your thoughts are a form of matter. Even your emotions are a form of matter. Energy, right? Subtle forms. So even these different levels of the manifest dimension all the way up to heaven, all of it's the same thing. Just different perspectives of it. So these ascended masters, they don't decide to come back and help people. They just realize that they never left. They're just operating from a different angle. They're able to sustain their being from a different angle. They're capable of being free. Nirvana is samsara. That's what it was. Nirvana is samsara. And see, these are just words. But if you really think about these words, they should provide some insight to the true nature of things. It's not hard. It's not hard. This stuff is easy peasy lemon squeezy. You just gotta look at it and remove the meanings and the words that the world has given you. Especially when you understand that most people don't know what they're talking about. They don't understand what they're talking about, and they don't care to learn. The ego is a hell of a drug, ain't it? Hell of a drug. All right. Cynthia77 asks, is the Ashtavakra Gita kind of a shortcut to this realization? Yeah. If you study it and meditate on it, you will come to conclusions that will get you closer to liberation. Yes, the same can be said about all the Gitas. Absolutely. Luis Garcia says, appreciate you going live, Trav. Appreciate you being here. Thank you. Wraith says, I'll replay this session when I get off work within an hour, or you might still be on. I'm going to try to wrap it up, man. I'm going to try to wrap it up. Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Adonis says, there's no other place but this. That's it. That's it. Nowhere to run. And that's important to understand because, people talk about, when I die, I'm going to become a god and create my own reality. Well, what's the difference from that reality and this reality? Because you're only going to create based off of what you experienced. You're just going to recreate the same thing. Lady Justice, peace. Lady Justice says, Magister Templigrade, the first above the abyss. Those who can destroy this temple, and in 3 days, I will raise it up. Must Jesus bear the cross alone? So what? At least it's gonna be mine. Is it really though? Is it really yours? Because think about it. For you to be God and you create this world, where did you get the ideas for that world from? Where did you get the ideas for the rules? Where did you get the ideas for the structure? Where did those ideas come from? You didn't create them. They were given to you. So is it really yours? That's like me going on to Fortnite Creative and creating my own Fortnite creative game mode. Sure, it's mine, but it really is Fortnite's. Fortnite created the code. They created the platform. They did all the heavy lifting. I just rearranged and reorganized it. Look into the demiurge. Look into the story of the demiurge. The blind idiot god. He said there was no other gods before him. He thought he was the creator. He was just the reorganizer. Smooth says, I'm going to create a real One Piece World X with all my favorite anime. Who created the anime? Who created the archetypes for the characters? Who created that style of art? All that stuff is already made by somebody else. You're just reorganizing it. I get you. I do. Just think about it some more. That's all. What if there was an option to not create anything? What if there's an option to leave all that stuff alone? What if there was something more than being a god over a world? What if there's actually a higher level than that? Feminine wisdom asks, so can we harm others with no repercussions? That's a good question. What do you think? What do you think? Can you harm others with no repercussions? The Mystic Mirror says, maybe off topic, but this is a good time to look for deities to work with or rely more on oneself. I always felt that my own power is weak and I need an outside energy to make it happen. Okay, and understand that that is a meaning that you have placed on reality. That is a permission that you've given to reality. If you desire to continue with that, by all means, you have the free will to do so. I would challenge you to play with a different meaning. Look at the book Liber Null and Psychonaut. It's a book about chaos magic. Read the first couple of chapters in that book. Play with a different meaning. Play with a different paradigm. Your power is the ability to change meaning. To change meaning. You give permission. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. Let me enjoy being a god first, man. I can get to the higher stuff later. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
Lady Justice says they can make a vessel from the forms and forces of the lower self, such as the personality, to rebuild into a disembodied being. Those are the masters who teach from that side. Sounds like something Gareth Knight mentioned. 5008 says the proverb, there is nothing new under the sun, which originates from Ecclesiastes 1:9. Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely.
I'm the Virgin Mary. I'm walking around this motherfucker and had none in 500 years. Oh, Jesus. Oh, Lord Jesus. Oh, 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 Jesus. Well, let's see what the fuck the Virgin Mary does. Every day. Not unless you dead. It gets worse and worse. With niggas out in the damn street, niggas on TV, the goddamn cracker, and just everyday life should be, you should be tired of this shit.
You should be tired of this, right? You should be tired of this. I don't want no more. I've had enough. Zero says, I think we incarnate here and sometimes in the astral, sometimes more far, but it's an endless cycle. And B, that means everything will be different every time. Yes. Continuous. I'm not going to suggest anybody do this, but I mean, if you take mushrooms or LSD or something similar, you start to see this stuff firsthand. And it's an unforgettable experience, especially if you go into those experiences with a little bit of occult understanding. You see, this is all just a mix mash. The difference is the type of meaning that you place on it. Because other than your meanings, it's meaningless. It's raw sensory data. Smooth says, I'm glad I'm hearing all this. Death been a thing that's been bugging me for 2 years, but now I kind of just accept the thought. Might be just me being more aware of my mortality. Yeah. You know, occult study has this weird side effect of dissolving the fear of death. Because before, the fear is either like you identify with the body and you don't want to let the body go, or the fear is not knowing what happens next. Occult study helps to clarify or shed light on both of those fears. If you truly understand that you're not the body, then that fear immediately dissipates. If you start to understand the system, right? And once again, nothing is true, everything's permitted. This is not the truth, but this is a map. The map is not the territory, but it's a map. Likewise with a meditation like taught with Shuddhi. Certain meditations are instructions that teach you what to do with your consciousness once it leaves the body. And the more that you practice these, the more that you become fluent in those meditations, again, the fear begins to subside. A meditation practice is practice in existing beyond the five senses. There is an existence beyond the five senses. We're all going to experience it. Better to get you some practice in now. You don't want to be scrambling and scraping. Scrambling and scraping. That's what Diddy likes.
I was coming off of being in Miami a night of party, and I don't really remember what I was saying. You know what I'm saying?
Would you like a reminder?
Yeah, sure.
Play some.
Hey, yo, listen, yo, I love it all. I love it all, man.
I like when you like this, Daddy.
Where you put my bag?
Daddy, I like when you scrambling and scraping for shit.
No, I got
I
notes
like
and
that.
That was you.
Scrambling.
What? You said, I like when you do it like that, Daddy. When you scrambling and scraping for shit.
Hey, man.
He's like, I don't know what I was talking about.
Hey. The Mystic Mirror says, I'm tired of this crap. I do have this mentality where I feel this rejection from deities, demons, and energies I want to work with. Like I'm not worthy. I've stuck with planetary magic. Again, my friend, I want you to analyze your meanings. Analyze the meanings that you placed on reality. Who told you that you are not worthy? Somebody put that in your head. Somebody convinced you to accept that. Somebody convinced you to accept that. Like I said, get the book, Liber Null and Psychonaut. Read the first couple of chapters. Read the first couple of chapters and do what it says in that book. Gotta understand, it is not true. It is a belief that you accepted. Who told you that you're not worthy? That's an agreement. And since you've agreed to that, matter has conformed to that agreement. I don't know if you watched this live stream, but go back and watch this live stream. Watch what I have said about consciousness and how matter aligns with consciousness. Your frame, matter of fact, what's the quote? What's that quote? Let's go back to it. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. There it is. All behavior, that includes your thoughts and your feelings. All behavior is organized by what? It's organized by higher matrices of frame and meaning. So your frame and your meaning, right? If you've got installed that you're not worthy to work with certain spirits, that certain spirits reject you, if that is installed in your meaning and in your frame, then your behavior is organized by that. It's literally that simple. There is no complication with this. Change your beliefs. Change the meaning that you've placed on your experience. It's that easy. When you're ready to do that, you're going to have a different experience. When you're ready to do that, you're going to have a different experience. Moving forward, I don't know what happened yesterday, but moving forward, this is what you're going to do if you want a better outcome. Scrambling and scraping after death is hilarious. That's the majority, though. That's what the majority will. Hey. Lady Justice says we yo-yo up and down between worlds just as we move in and out of stages of sleep. from waking state to dream state to deep sleep, but never awake until realized. Therefore, being in heaven or hell is meaningless because you're still asleep. Yes, absolutely. And with that being said, why even be concerned with that, right? Why be concerned with, am I going to heaven or hell? What if there's something more useful and appropriate to place my concerns on? Lewis says, even though if you did something maybe you regret that makes you feel unworthy, y'all listen to me. Listen to me. I don't care what happened. It doesn't matter. What matters is recognizing what's going on right now. What's going on right now is that you've placed a meaning on your memories. You've placed a meaning on your current condition. And that meaning sets a parameter for what you can and what you cannot do. The moment that you change that meaning and that parameter, then you begin to change the outcome. The moment that you change the meaning, that's what this whole live stream is about. That's what all those examples that I gave, right? The computer programmer and the code, when you change the code, the program changes. But if you continue to perpetuate these feelings of guilt and unworthiness and all these other things, if you continue to run that program, you're going to keep getting those results. It's simple. I recognize that it's not easy, but it is simple. I am says, maybe that's just not where your magical aptitude lies, yet spirit is parallel to you. It's above you. I think that everyone has the potential because everyone comes from the same source. Everyone is a fragment of the same light. Everyone's consciousness is the fragment of the same consciousness. Now, the matter that has formed the body may be a different story, but everyone is operating with the same spirit that has fractioned into different souls, that has fractioned into different incarnations. But each and every person here is attached to the unbroken evolution of spirit. Each and every thing that can ever exist is attached to the one unbroken chain of spirit. So everyone has the potential. Everyone has the potential. Eventually, everyone will recognize the truth, but at different rates and different speeds. Trav, when you say you change the outcome, that is where the problem lies, because you never know how long. Well, don't worry about how long. See, there's this notion of working with a pure heart. Focus on now. Focus on this only moment that exists, which is right now. Don't worry about how long. There's a parable in the Vedic texts that talk about these two men, right, taking care of this tree. I might get some of the details wrong, but I'll get the story correct. Ultimately, these dudes want to go to heaven. They want to ascend and become enlightened. Vishnu himself comes down and talks to the first dude, and the dude asks Vishnu, I believe, how long will it be before I reach enlightenment? And he points to the tree and says, as many leaves are on that tree, that's how many incarnations that you'll have to go through before you reach enlightenment. And the dude's like, damn, that's too many. I don't want to wait that long. Fuck out of here, right? Vishnu leaves him be in his in his human stew. The other guy asked the same question. Vishnu, how long will it be before I reach enlightenment? And Vishnu says, as many leaves on that tree, that's how many lifetimes you're going to have to incarnate before you can reach enlightenment. The guy's like, yes, finally, I have a number. So I know if I can just get through all those incarnations, I'll get there. And in that moment, he became enlightened. He didn't even have to go through it because he saw the finite. He saw the finiteness. So same information, different angles. Don't worry about how long. Just do it. I mean, you only got two choices, change or don't. So you pick which one is useful and appropriate to you. Cynthia says, nothing means anything until you put a meaning on it. Always. Absolutely. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. I like that. Lady Justice says, who is worried, right? Who is regretting? Who? Who is feeling these feelings? Smooth said yes, but Vishnu at least told him how many, so you can measure that. Okay, so look, here's what I want you to do then. If this is a real concern for you, and you're not just talking, if this is a real concern for you, I want you to sit down in meditation and visualize Vishnu coming down to you. And you ask him the question and let him give you an answer and see what you do in that moment. I'm serious. Sit down, go into meditation, visualize Vishnu, visualize him coming down to you. You ask him that whatever question that you got to ask him, let him answer you and see what you do with the answer. And if you actually do that, let me know what happened. If you actually do that, I want you to message me and let me know what happened. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. I'm showing them who was the high now.
Rack bar. I'm showing them who was the high now. Pimp, nasty, funky pimp, and stinking chicken.
It's the real deal.
It's the real deal.
Where's that rack bar at?
Rack 'em, rack, 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 bar, rack, rack, rack.
1, 2, 3.
Rack, 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 rack.
All right. So we are reaching the conclusion here. If there are no more questions, then I'm going to go back into the astral plane and do what I do. Nam-myoho Renge Kyo. Cynthia asks, is doing mirror magic also a shortcut to rewiring your mind on what you tell yourself? Absolutely. Go do it. Go try it. Get you a candle, cut the lights off, and test it out. I did it a lot in my beginning stages. I've even made videos on that. Do it. That's what I say. Do it. Go do it. Go do it. And then you tell me what happens. I got your Instagram too. So yeah, you message me what happens when you do it. Now you have to do it. All right. Nothing else? Nobody else? We good? Well, this has been a fun live stream. I enjoyed myself. We talked about some good stuff. Yo, Trav, you think that Linda meditation might take me a few days for Vishnu TK to show up? I don't see it taking a few days. Like, think about it. So let's say you put on some binaural beats or some atmospheric music, right? And you sit down, get into meditation, and you just focus on Vishnu. Whatever, you know what I'm saying? You might have a picture, or you might just think about the vibration of Vishnu. Just think about Vishnu, focus on Vishnu, meditate on Vishnu. Just sit there and see Vishnu standing in front of you. Like, just see him standing in front of you. And when it feels right, in your mind, ask Vishnu that question. He may answer you right there on the spot. He might answer you later on when you're washing dishes, or when you're driving to work, or playing video games on the couch. But as long as you set the intention to do this, it's going to happen. I don't see it taking a bunch of days. You might be surprised. Zero says, one more question. Did you think when you live like Gautama, you are nothing walking on earth? I think I want you to rephrase that a little bit. Like a zero just being incarnate as a specific pattern of that infinite without friction. Okay, yes. So, yeah, when you start, because here's the thing, before that level, you're living identified with the elements. You're living identified with the expressions that are happening. You're living as identified with matter. So you go through the karma of matter. You go through that cause and effect, that bouncing back and forth. You keep assigning meaning and you get a response, and then you assign a meaning to that response, and you just keep going back and forth, circulating that karma. When you start to live in a more way that's non-attached to matter and non-attached to the sense of identity and humanity and all this other stuff, you're stirring up less and less karma. You're stirring up less and less cause and effect, because by nature you're not identifying with or attaching to that karma. Unbound. And with that comes other practices that leave less of an impact as far as like generating garbage and negativity and dissonance with other people. So yeah, I think the more and more of the aesthetic path that you can walk, the less karma that you're stirring up. That's one of the reasons why I stopped eating meat. That's one of the reasons why I do a lot of things, to leave less of an impact. Because in my meaning matrix, that is the right thing to do. That is the useful and appropriate thing to do. The Mystic Mirror says, all right, I'm doing it. But if I summon some crazy shit, I'm blaming all of yous. Good. The important thing is that you do it. Do the work. Stop being scared. The only person that says you weren't worthy is you. You're agreeing to that. So stop saying that. Say something else. You could say anything else. Smooth says, I'm gonna have to use the MP3 you playing. Yeah. If you can find it. Fuck it. I'll post it on my story. If any of you guys follow me on Instagram, I'll post it on my story. I'm excited as hell. I'll tell you if anything comes up. Dope. Good to hear. All right, so I think that's the end. Thank you, Trav. You really helped me to understand more and match even what we talk about. Yeah, thank you for sending me that reel, because that really spurred a lot of this. 333, Veronica Archaga. I love you, Veronica. Hope you're having a wonderful evening. Hope you're having a great evening. We had a good live stream. You might have to check the replay, though. Adonis says, thanks for this live, bro. Thank you for being here, my friend. Thank you. Thank you once again. Thank you. All right. Get your meditation mantras up. Do the right thing. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. You don't have to suffer. You set the meaning. All of life is just raw sensory data. You set the meaning to it. I control the context. You control the context. Nobody else. All right? Do what you're supposed to do. Do what you're supposed to do. All right. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LX777. I love you. Peace.
Everybody who rode in an ambulance car, throw your hands up. If you rode in an ambulance car, everybody who rode in the ambulance car, everybody, everybody.